Hello and welcome to Science Meets Vedanta, a platform dedicated to delving into the core principles of Vedanta and uncovering the remarkable connections between scientific inquiry and ancient wisdom. I am Jayant Kapatkar, author of the book Science Meets Vedanta. Each week, inspired by insights from my book, we'll journey through a range of topics aimed at deepening your understanding of the essential teachings of Vedanta. Along the way, we'll also examine scientific concepts and demonstrate how the wisdom of Vedanta can offer new and meaningful perspectives. Be sure to join us as we embark on this enlightening path together. In this episode, we delve into the subject of Karma Yoga, a fundamental aspect of Vedanta teachings. Of all the spiritual paths described in the scriptures, Karma Yoga is particularly notable for its role in fostering inner peace and mental clarity. It acknowledges the inevitability of action in our lives and recognizes that the results of our actions can often bring about stress and dissatisfaction. By practicing Karma Yoga, we learn to transform our attitude and approach toward each action we undertake. Karma is commonly understood as action, while yoga, in this context, refers to practice. Therefore, Karma Yoga can be described as the practice of action. The intention behind practicing Karma Yoga is to cultivate inner peace and purify the mind. The Bhagavad Gita is unique among the scriptures for its comprehensive and profound exploration of Karma Yoga. Although Bhagavad Gita covers many themes, its central and most significant teaching is undoubtedly Karma Yoga. Drawing from the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita, this episode will address two key aspects of Karma Yoga. 1. The true meaning of karma. 2. The attitudes one should adopt in practicing Karma Yoga. 1. The true meaning of karma. To carry out any action or karma, two elements are required: a subject who acts and an object upon which the action is directed. In this context, the subject is the ego, and the objects that represent different things or situations. Naturally, whenever the ego encounters an object, it must respond. Remaining passive is not an option. All living beings, down to the single cell level, are hardwired to respond in this way as part of their genetic programming. For instance, a single cell will recoil from vinegar but move closer to sugar, demonstrating attraction or repulsion based on its reaction to the stimulus. Essentially, the ego reacts to the object by either liking or disliking the presented object. This fundamental duality, like, dislike, attraction, repulsion, positive, negative, drives the ego or the I am to perform karmas. This principle applies universally to all forms of life, regardless of their complexity. Even humans are compelled to react in every situation. Remaining completely still is not possible. It's important to distinguish that the mere interaction between ego and object isn't karma itself. Rather, karma is found in the response of liking or disliking. Understanding this distinction is crucial. Below are some examples to illustrate this point more clearly. 1. Many believe that the act of talking itself is karma. However, speech is simply a natural function of the human body. Karma arises only when you speak with a positive or negative intention about someone. That is, when the ego is involved in making a judgment or causing harm or benefit. 2. Walking is a natural action and does not, in itself, constitute karma. If while walking you intentionally step on an insect, that intentional act is karma. If you accidentally step on an insect without awareness, it is not karma, since there is no involvement of the ego. 3. Having ears means you naturally hear sounds around you. Simply hearing the ambient noise, such as in an airport lounge, is not karma. However, if you become irritated by the noise, this emotional response, this irritation, involves the ego and thus becomes karma. 4. Observing the world around you is a natural process. You cannot help but see what is in front of you. But when you judge what you see, perhaps thinking someone's shirt is ugly or someone else looks attractive, those judgments are karmas as they arise from the ego's response. Every action the ego undertakes, whether liking or disliking, leads to a consequence. In Vedanta, this outcome is known as karma phala, meaning the fruit of your actions. Similarly, science illustrates this principle through Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Whatever you do will inevitably produce a result. It's a fundamental rule of nature. This idea has been explored in detail in the episode Doctrine of Karma. Please listen to this whenever you have the time. When the results of your actions align with your expectations, you experience happiness. However, when things don't go as planned, feelings like disappointment, anger, or frustration can arise. The key is learning to accept all results, good or bad, with calmness and balance. This ability to remain steady regardless of the outcome is at the heart of Karma Yoga. Prerequisites for practicing Karma Yoga. Grasping Karma Yoga goes beyond mere theory. It is essential to integrate its principles into our everyday lives. To truly embrace Karma Yoga, one must cultivate the right foundation. This readiness is achieved by fulfilling key prerequisites, ensuring that we are open and prepared to receive its wisdom. Embracing positive values. Establishing and adhering to a set of positive values is fundamental. This includes being honest, maintaining sincere work ethics, showing respect to parents, caring for family members, engaging with children, and supporting friends in times of need. Although many people live by these principles and may believe they are practicing Karma Yoga, these actions are not Karma Yoga itself. Instead, they serve as the minimum baseline required before one can begin the journey of Karma Yoga. Without these positive values as part of daily life, genuine assimilation of Karma Yoga remains out of reach. Living according to Dharma. Dharma represents a central pillar of the Hindu tradition, with ahimsa, the practice of causing the least harm physically, mentally, or spiritually, at its heart. In addition, duty and responsibility are vital aspects of Dharma. Integrating these core values into everyday decisions is crucial. Before acting, one should reflect on whether the action aligns with Dharma. Only actions that pass this test should be pursued, making Dharma the guiding principle of one's life. However, living by Dharma is not the same as practicing Karma Yoga. It is the essential groundwork required for spiritual growth and the first step on the path to Karma Yoga. The attitudes one should adopt in practicing Karma Yoga. The correct approach is to convert all ordinary actions to spiritual practice. This is the underlying principle of Karma Yoga. What is this approach which will help you to do your daily mundane activities with a prayerful and devotional attitude? Parts of Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, 4, 5 and 18 from Bhagavad Gita focus on Karma Yoga. In the following paragraphs, we'll summarize some of the key teachings of these chapters. 1. Karma Phala Data, giver of the fruits of action. Who gives the fruits of our actions? Understanding this is the core value of Karma Yoga. Chapter 2, verse 47 explains this concept brilliantly. This is one of the most quoted verses in the Bhagavad Gita. You have the authority or control on the action you do, but you have no authority or control on the results of the action. This is a profound and universal truth. It is applicable to everyone and to every action we undertake. We can only do action, but we have no choice or control over the results. This sounds like an obvious statement to make, but how often do we undertake any action without any expectation of what the result will be? But here we can acknowledge that we don't have any control over what the results of our actions will be. The question is, who decides or controls these results? The Bhagavad Gita teaches us that it is Ishvara, or God, who decides the results. Does that mean Ishvara is judgmental and uses his own likes and dislikes to pass judgment? The answer is no. Ishvara has a will, but it is unlike the human will. It has no likes and dislikes. Ishvara's will is the law of nature. Ishvara controls this universe through the laws of nature. Once these laws are set in motion, Ishvara does not do anything. The results you are getting now are based on pending phalas, fruits of your past actions. It is not arbitrary. You are the karma karta, doer, or agent of action, while Ishvara is the karma phaladata, the giver of the results of action. This devotional attitude is the first right step in karma yoga. Second, prasada buddhi, attitude of gift receiving. Even if you accept Ishvara to be the karma phaladata or giver of results, it is not easy to accept the results. We all know very well if the outcome of any action is not as per our expectation, it causes frustration and irritation. Negative emotions dominate and lead to unhappiness. We usually want things our way. In many cases, this does not happen. This inner conflict is the major source of turmoil in the mind. How to change our attitude to overcome these shortcomings? For this, Karma Yoga teaches the concept of a prasada buddhi. You could say it is the perfect solution. Buddhi, in this case, means attitude. Prasada has no exact translation. It could mean God's blessing. When we go a temple, after we offer our prayers, the priest will give us a prasada of dry fruits which has been blessed by Ishvara. When we receive this prasada of dry fruits, we receive them with humility and love. We bow our heads when we receive this prasada because we know it has come from Ishvara. In life too, we should receive the results of our actions as if we have received a prasada from Ishvara. We accept the results of all our actions with humility, gratitude, and love. This attitude of acceptance is called prasada buddhi. If you can cultivate this attitude to all things in life, we can lead a life that is peaceful and calm, whatever up and downs life might bring. 3. Gaining equanimity. Once you understand that Ishvara is the karma phaladata and that everything that you receive in life is a prasada, we should be able to accept the results of our actions with equanimity. This is easier said than done. On the surface, we may accept the outcomes, but deep down, we are still unhappy about the bad results. So how do we cultivate equanimity? The best way to cultivate this attitude is to elevate our motivation factor or upgrade our attachment to spiritual growth. What does this mean? Think of the various attachments you have formed as you journeyed through life. As kids, we were attached to toys. Then as we grew up, we formed new attachments like reading books or playing sports. As you can see, when we get a new attachment, the previous attachment is reduced or disappears. If this is correct, we should change our lifestyle and make spiritual growth our primary focus of attachment so that other attachments can be negated. This way we can accept negative or positive outcomes with equanimity because we are no longer attached to these expectations. A devotional or spiritual lifestyle is the only way you can gain equanimity in life. 4. Ishvara Arpana Buddhi, attitude of offering to God. Arpana Buddhi is the attitude of offering our actions to Ishvara. Both Prasada Buddhi and Arpana Buddhi are complementary. One is receiving and the other is giving. To understand Arpana Buddhi, you must understand the concept of Yagna in ancient India. Yagna was conducted for thanking Ishvara for the blessings received. The main motivation is to thank Ishvara and acknowledge that everything happens because of Ishvara. The rain is because of Ishvara. The heart beating without resting is a blessing from Ishvara. There is nothing in the universe which is not due to Ishvara. Yagnas was one way of paying back for all the blessings received in life. Everything belongs to Ishvara. So what is it that you can really offer Ishvara? The only thing you can offer is your actions. This is Arpana Buddhi. You do all actions as a dedication to Ishvara. You offer your actions with love and affection to Ishvara. Any action is done with a prayerful attitude, even mundane daily activities. If you are offering all your actions to Ishvara, there is little chance that you will act against Dharma. All your actions, apana buddhi, are done with a prayerful attitude, and all results thereof are also to be accepted, prasada buddhi, with a prayerful attitude. This is the core of karma yoga. 5. No hidden agenda. It's common for people to act in pursuit of their own desires and self satisfaction. Even when someone performs an act of charity, which is undoubtedly noble, there's often a sense of personal fulfillment that follows. This feeling can be seen as a form of attachment. Whether we care for others or take positive action, our underlying motivation may often be personal satisfaction, revealing a subtle, hidden agenda in many of our actions. According to the Bhagavad Gita, even the most noble deeds can become obstacles to spiritual growth if they are performed with such hidden motives. If we seek spiritual progress, we should remember that Ishvara's divinity exists in every living being. Therefore, our actions toward others ought to be carried out with the same humility and devotion as if we were serving Ishvara directly. While this approach is challenging, the first step is to recognize that everyone is a manifestation of Ishvara. By making spiritual growth our primary goal, our actions will naturally align with the principles of karma yoga, allowing us to act without hidden agendas. Helping and caring for others then becomes an expression of duty and dharma rather than a pursuit of personal satisfaction. Benefits of practicing karma yoga. Practicing karma yoga in our daily lives offers a range of profound benefits. Here we will briefly explore some of the most significant advantages. Freedom from accumulating karma. As discussed earlier, we are driven to act by our likes and dislikes, and every action, karma, we perform yield results that bind us to a continuous cycle of cause and effect. According to the Bhagavad Gita, when we act with the spirit of karma yoga, dedicating our actions to Ishvara, we do not accumulate new karmas. In this selfless state, it is as though Ishvara is acting through us, dissolving our sense of personal doership. While complete surrender to Ishvara may seem challenging, even striving toward this attitude can bring inner tranquility and reduce mental turbulence. Adopting the karma yoga mindset helps us face life's highs and lows with steadiness and peace. Purification of the mind. Our minds are often clouded by impurities like desire, jealousy, anger, and selfishness, obstacles that the Bhagavad Gita describes as our greatest enemies. The practice of karma yoga offers a way to overcome these tendencies by encouraging us to act with devotion and humility, accepting outcomes gracefully. When we prioritize spiritual growth and consistently approach our actions with a prayerful attitude, these mental impurities gradually dissolve. As a result, our minds become more peaceful, clear, and free of inner conflict. Pathway to liberation, moksha. The ultimate aim of human life, according to spiritual teachings, is moksha, liberation from suffering, and the endless cycle of birth and death. Moksha is achieved when the ego, which is rooted in ignorance, is dissolved in the realization of the true self. This self-knowledge can only be deeply assimilated when the mind is pure. By practicing karma yoga, we purify the mind, making it receptive to higher wisdom and paving the way for true liberation. Thus, the most vital benefit of karma yoga is that it sets us firmly on the journey toward the highest spiritual goal, moksha. We hope you find this exploration about karma yoga insightful and useful. It is important to recognize that we create karma only when we attach likes and dislikes to the situations we encounter. Unless we actively strive to break free, we remain trapped in this cycle of suffering. Approaching this challenge with the right mindset is essential. Karma yoga, with the emphasis on cultivating the attitudes of Prasada Buddhi and Apana Buddhi will help to perform every action with a sense of prayerful devotion. Our minds will gradually become purified. If you are interested in delving deeper into topics like this, you will discover more in my book, Science Meets Vedanta, available on Amazon. Additionally, we offer a growing library of podcasts covering many different topics. Feel free to browse through them at your convenience. If you enjoyed today's episode, we encourage you to share it with your family and friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an upcoming episode. Thank you for tuning in. We look forward to connecting with you again soon.